Well, 17 days, not one weekend off, not one miss, not one dip they didn't buy. While Bitcoin dropped below 78,000 and retail panicked, the same institution moved another 3 billion into cold storage today. And tonight, Japan just did something that could change the entire game. I'm Chris Hare, the world champion crypto cowboy. We've got a lot to go over tonight, and I've got two roads for you for where Bitcoin goes from here. So let's go ahead and get into it. We've got a lot to talk about, and we're going to start out with what moved this weekend because this is the most important geopolitical development since Beijing. Iran on Saturday, Trump met with top members of his national security team at his Virginia golf club. CNN confirmed today in the room Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. This is not a casual Saturday meeting. That's the full war cabinet assembled one day after returning from Beijing. Then Sunday morning, Trump posted on Truth Social his exact words, verified and sourced. For Iran, the clock is ticking, and they better get to moving faster. There won't be anything left of them. Time is of the essence. Trump also spoke directly with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu on Sunday, confirmed by a U.S. official. Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, rejected Trump's nuclear proposal on May 16th, called the demand to abandon uranium enrichment excessive and outrageous, and accused Trump of lying about seeking peace. There's no deal close. Now, here's something worth thinking about. Trump doesn't telegraph military action. He never has. Every major strike in this conflict has came without public warning. The fact that this meeting leaked to CNN with names, attendees on a Saturday, that's not a coincidence. You don't accidentally leak the CIA director and the Secretary of State sitting in a war council. That information was authorized, and the leak is the message. Tehran is the audience. And the tinfoil cowboy hat says, when the headline is the operation, watch what the market does before the action confirms. Bitcoin dropped to 76,614 this morning, and that was nearly 700 million in liquidations in 24 hours. The market read it before the mainstream caught up. Day 78 of the Strait effectively closed. That's not a ceasefire, that's a countdown. And strategy, Michael Saylor's company is signaling another Bitcoin purchase. They bought 535 Bitcoin last week at an average of 80,340 per coin, and now hold at an average of 75,540, buying into 78,000. He's not scared of this level. ETF flows Friday negative 290 million. The week's total $1 billion. It's the first negative week in 6 consecutive weeks. You think of ETF flows like a scoreboard for whether big institutions are buying or selling Bitcoin through Wall Street products. This week they sold, and that's the honest read, and it stays on camera. Now the big one, the Clarity Act. The Senate Banking Committee passed it 15-9 on May 14th. That's the gate it just cleared, but here's where it stands tonight. To get to President Trump's desk, it still needs 60 Senate floor votes, reconciliation with the White House version, and a presidential signature. The White House is targeting July 4th, and to hit that deadline, the floor vote needs to happen this week before Memorial Day recess. And here's the problem. The ethics provision, language that would restrict government officials, including the president, from profiting from crypto, was not included in the committee bill. Democrats won't vote for it on the floor without that language. The White House has said they won't tolerate language that targets the president specifically. And the two Democrats who crossed the aisle in committee already warned their floor votes are not guaranteed without an ethics deal. Senator Gallego said it directly. If ethics isn't resolved before the floor vote, he'll simply vote no. The Digital Chamber's Cody Carbone said they'll only bring the bill to the floor when they're confident they have 60 votes, meaning the ethics deal has to get done first. And right now, the White House won't budge. The Democrats won't budge. The clock is running. That's the stalemate. And Memorial Day recess is days away. We got to watch what happens this week. If the ethics deal doesn't close, the July 4th targets gets very difficult to hit. This is the most important week this legislation has seen. Now the macro environment, and tonight's section matters more than any chart I'm going to show you. You have to think of this as the weather report before you saddle up. You need to know what you're riding into. And here's the tension defining the stock market right now. The S&P 500, the scoreboard for the 500 biggest U.S. stocks, hit an all-time record of 7501 this week, led by AI and semiconductor companies. But here's the thing. Remove the AI stocks from that number, and the 142% gain since 2024 collapses to 16%. The entire stock market is riding one horse, and while stocks were celebrating, the bond market was sending a completely different signal. The 10-year Treasury yield, think of it like the price of money for the entire economy, the rate the U.S. government pays to borrow for 10 years, closed at 4.599%. That is the highest close on the daily chart. Intraday, it touched 4.627%. And when that number goes up, everything that competes with bonds gets pressured, and that includes Bitcoin. Thursday on this channel, I put it at 4.516% on camera and said it had room to run. It's moved higher every single session since. This morning, the Kabisi letter, one of the most followed macro accounts on X, put out their 5th warning on the bond market. Their words, not mine. The bond market crisis is intensifying. The 10-year yield note is now officially above 4.55% for the first time since May 2025. After weeks of euphoria, the market is beginning to react. Inflation is back and higher rates are coming. And the bull theory, another verified source, put it in plain English that a farrier could understand. Bond yields do not care about AI. They care about a $2 trillion annual deficit, oil at $100, persistent inflation, and a government borrowing more money every single day to fund a war. And their closer, both cannot be right. And historically, it's not the bond market that's wrong. Futures markets, the trader who bets where interest rates go are now pricing in a 44% probability of a Fed rate hike by December, up 22.5% just 1 week ago at the start of 2026. Traders expected at least 2 rate cuts. That story has completely flipped. When the government bonds are paying 5% risk-free, people stop putting money into things that don't pay interest like Bitcoin. That's the mechanical headwind Bitcoin is operating against right now. Auto loan delinquencies are at a 32-year high. Mortgages are heading towards 7%. The guy at the feed store is not sending extra money to risk assets right now. He's filling up the tank on his truck. The dollar, the DXY index, which measures how strong the dollar is against other major currencies, sitting at 99.324 tonight, right at key resistance level. The speedometer, the stochastic RSI, you have to think of it like a tachometer in your truck, is at the red zone at absolute maximum. The cipher just printed a fresh bull signal on the dollar. A stronger dollar makes Bitcoin more expensive for every buyer outside the United States. Key level above is $100. Momentum is with the dollar. No confirmed rollover on a daily candle just yet. Oil's at 102.10 tonight after hitting $105 on Iran escalation fears, and day 78 of the Strait effectively closed. Every $20 rise in oil adds approximately 0.5% to the inflation reading. And at these oil prices, that math is working directly against every rate cut the market was hoping for. The cipher on oil is showing the cleanest early warning of a potential rollover of the 3 macro inputs. And if oil rolls over from this level, it relieves some of the macro pressure on Bitcoin, but it's not confirmed yet. Now, here's the one thing worth watching across all 3 inputs. The speedometer maxed on yields in the dollar. When the tachometer pegs at the red zone, it doesn't stay there forever. That's not a buy signal on Bitcoin, but it's the first early warning that the headwind may be approaching exhaustion. We've got to watch for confirmed rollover on closed daily candles. Until that happens, the headwind stays and the framework respects it. Bitcoin dominance. Now, you got to think of this like a faucet that controls whether money flows into Bitcoin or into altcoins. At 60.83% tonight, sitting right out on the 382 fib support at 60.42%. The speedometer near zero, and the cipher just printed a hidden bull signal. Dominance is pulling into a low, not a top. While it holds this level, altcoins bleed relative to Bitcoin. Alt season is not confirmed. The faucet hasn't turned. And before the charts, here's what the four-layer framework called and when it called it. Thursday on this channel, I put the 10-year yield at 4.51% on camera, and I said it had room to run towards 4.813%. Friday, it closed at 4.597%. Tonight, it closed at 4.599% and touched 4.62% intraday. 3 consecutive sessions confirming the call before the mainstream caught up. The framework called it. I'm just the messenger. And the $100 challenge. Let me pull up the BloFin exchange and show you what's going on because I want you to see this. Trade 29, our active short trade, meaning we're positioned for price to go down, entered at $80,077 at 25x leverage on Friday. Take profit 1 hit at 79,555. That's a 28.85% return on an equity. And then we booked take profit 2 at $78,000. That's a 63.56% return on equity booked. You can see both those levels right here on my chart. Stop, move to break even, meaning this trade now costs us nothing to hold. We can't lose money on it. Take profit 3 at $76,621. It's less than $400 from current price tonight. Runner targeting $75,000. The record stands at 19 wins, 11 losses. Account sitting at $250. Realize that's up 150 cents from the $100 starting point. Copy traders who followed the setup booked 2 confirmed wins on this single trade. And if you want to follow every trade without reading a single chart, search the Crypto Cowboy in the BloFin copy trading tab. BloFin's also got a $7,000 trading competition all of May, top prize $2,800. You can sign up through the link in my description. And if this is your first time here, this week is one of the most important Bitcoin has seen in months. New York open tomorrow morning. Clarity Act deadline this week. Iran countdown and the whale on day 17. Hit subscribe and tap the bell right now. You don't want to miss what comes next. Now let's talk about what smart money did all weekend, because this is the story behind the story. You need to pay attention. 17 consecutive weeks, same institution, not one day missed, including Saturday and Sunday, approaching, get this guys, $60 billion accumulated into cold storage, and they have not stopped once. While retail panicked at $77,000, while ETF flows went negative $1 billion for the week, while the bond market was screaming crisis, the same buyer walked in every single morning and bought every single day. And you have to think of it like a grain elevator. The same buyer, the same quantity, the same destination, 17 mornings in a row. At some point you stop and ask, who is that and what do they know that I don't? Today alone, multiple 450 million plus wrapped Bitcoin batches every hour from 6:32 this morning to about 6:38 tonight. Every single one going straight into cold storage. The largest single batch of this entire 7-day run, it hit at 4:47 this afternoon. 5,961 wrapped Bitcoin, $464 million one batch. Cold storage immediately. Wrapped Ethereum batches ran every 15 to 30 minutes without pause throughout the day. And at 6:21 this evening, over 1.1 billion in stablecoin movement in a 3-minute window. That's not someone making a trade. That's someone loading a gun. Now here's where it gets interesting. Arkham Intelligence called this entity Cluster 687A, the 136 connected wallet addresses, coin-join privacy mixing throughout. That's a technique that scrambles the transaction trail so the source can't be identified. Arkham cannot identify who it is. That's not a hedge fund. Hedge funds don't operate with this level of privacy architecture for 17 consecutive days at this scale. It's either a sovereign wealth fund or a nation state. That's been the thesis since day one. Now here's where it gets interesting. Today, Japan announced SBI Securities and Rakuten Securities, two of Japan's largest brokerages, are developing cryptocurrency investment trusts for Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's a named source, Nikkei Asia. Right now, Japanese investor who wants Bitcoin has to open a crypto exchange account and set up a wallet. These trusts let them buy it like a mutual fund through the account, just like they already have. Nomura, Daiwa, and 11 other major financial firms are considering entering once the regulatory framework is finalized. Nearly 80% of Japanese institutional investors plan to allocate 2 to 5% of their portfolios to crypto by 2029. Japan is also considering cutting the crypto tax rate from 55% down to 20%. If that passes, the retail floodgates open for 125 million people. Now, here's what the framework says. You don't announce the policy and then buy. You buy first, then you announce the policy. The Arkham data does not name the entity. The dots cannot be confirmed, but 17 consecutive days approaching $60 billion, cold storage every batch, coin-join privacy throughout, and Japan announces on day 17 the largest single batch of the entire run hit the same day. That's not a coincidence the framework ignores. You need to draw your own conclusions, but I'm just the messenger. Now the scoreboard between buyer and sellers, because the whale is buying and price is dropping, and here's exactly why. Cumulative volume delta, the scoreboard between buyers and sellers, think of it like a tug of war rope. All three time frames showing strong sales simultaneous tonight. Daily negative 213, the 4-hour negative 211, and the 1-hour negative 213. The spread between time frames has collapsed to near identical readings. When all three pull the same direction at the same strength at the same time, that is a coordinated flush behavior. The sellers are organized, the buyers are getting washed. Exchange net flows showing distribution accelerating, 9.99 million flowing onto exchanges versus only 570,000 leaving. You think of exchanges like the auction barn. When more Bitcoin flows in and out, sellers are bringing their cattle to market. That's not accumulation. That's the crowd preparing to sell. Funding across all three major exchanges negative tonight. OKX negative 0.1313. Binance negative 0.1083, and Bybit negative 0.5711. Bybit extreme. Think of funding like rent. Right now, people are betting on a drop. The shorts are collecting rent from people betting on a bounce. The longs. Every 8 hours, the crowd is 55.68% long and getting destroyed while shorts collect. That positioning is the fuel. Subway 5 is burning through. The crowd is not capitulated. That tells you the move is not complete. Coinbase Premium at negative 40.62. U.S. institutions are selling into this level, not buying. The contrast is stark. The sovereign scale well is accumulating everything they sell. Open interest, the total amount of money in active futures bets, is at 7.75 billion, down 3.02% in 24 hours. Leverage flushing out structurally. Less fuel means the next move needs real buyers, not borrowed money. Liquidations entirely one-sided. 469,000 in long positions. Forced close versus only $77,000 in shorts. Every forced close tonight is a long getting washed out. Options max pain. The price where most money expires worthless. Stepping lower every day this week. 79,000 Monday and Tuesday. 78,000 Wednesday. You think of max pain like gravity, pulling price lower going into the week. Fear and greed at 26, approaching extreme fear. The reading alone is not a buy signal, but historically, these levels precede reversals. The question is whether we get there directly or through $75,000 first. One positive signal worth noting: long-term holders are not selling into this. The entities that matter are moving Bitcoin into cold storage. The entities that don't know what they're doing are the ones flooding exchanges. Smart money is not scared. Retail is. Now let's go ahead and get into the charts, because I know that's what you're here for. And here's the weekly chart, the 30,000 view, and what we're looking at. Bitcoin's at $77,000 tonight, sitting at a weekly equilibrium, right between the walls above and the floor below. The weekly 50 smooth moving average, the highway center line on the weekly time frame at 82,546, that's the ceiling. That's the wall that rejected price twice and has not been reclaimed. The head and shoulders pattern, a technical formation that signals a potential major move lower, looks exactly like it sounds. A head with two shoulders, it's confirmed on the weekly. Head at 126,180, right shoulder at 82,350. Measured move target, where the pattern points if it completes, is 34,178. That target stays on the map until 82,546 breaks and holds on a weekly close. What the indicators say: the weekly heartbeat, the RSI, your heart rate monitor for the market, is below 50 for the first time since the war low. That's the macro bear signal. Call it every video until it changes. The weekly cipher hidden bull, the same signal that marked the war low at 59,881 before the recovery. No outside band dot, the signal that says a wave is complete, has not printed, the wave is not done. What it means: two macro roads. Road 1 is the war low at 59,836, completed the correction, and wave 5 up targets 86,122 to 87,270, where the weekly EMA 50 and the 382 fib fence posts converge. Road 2, correction isn't finished, and the head and shoulders measured move at 34,178 is the destination. The weekly close above 82,546 is what separates those two roads. Every video, same map, new viewer or 10-year veteran. You need the short-term setup and the 3 to 6 month picture. That's the job. Now let's go ahead and zoom into the daily chart, because that's where the near-term decision gets made. And what we're looking at, prices at $77,000, the daily's 50 smooth moving average. The smooth moving average, the short-term highway center line, at 76,821, and the daily 50 simple moving average at 75,500 are the immediate support clusters below. Price is $208 above the daily 50 smooth moving average right now. That's a thin margin. The 4-hour extension at 78,976 is the first meaningful resistance above. Now, what the indicators say: the daily speedometer, the stochastic RSI, K is above D at 0. Third consecutive session pinned at absolute 0. Like an engine that has been running flat out in reverse for 3 days straight. The most extreme daily oversold reading of this entire move. The daily heartbeat, the RSI, at 4.26, it's exhausted. The daily cipher hidden bull, the same signal that marked the war low, active at 45.32. There's no outside band dot, the wave's not complete, and what it means: the daily is screaming oversold. 3 consecutive sessions at the extreme of the speedometer range. But oversold does not mean bottom, it means the sell-off has been extended, and historically is where the relief bounce happens, bounce initiates. The wave structure says subwave 5 is targeting $75,000. The indicators say the body is exhausted. Both things can be true at the same time. We got to watch the daily 50 smooth moving average at 76,821 on a daily close. We lose that, and your next stop is the daily 50 simple moving average at 75,500. And something most of you haven't thought about: every time you sell crypto for a gain outside of a retirement account, the IRS is your silent partner, taking their cut every single time. A Bitcoin IRA through iTrust Capital lets your gains grow tax deferred or tax free. It's the same concept as your 401k, but built for Bitcoin and crypto. You're not just buying Bitcoin, you're protecting it, not because they're a sponsor, but because it's the right move. There's a $300 sign up bonus through the link in my description. Go check it out. And now we're going to move on to that 4-hour chart. This is where the trade lives tonight, and it's telling a clean story. What we're looking at, price at $77,000, the 4-hour 50 simple moving average at 79,929, and the 4-hour 50 simple moving average at 79,240 are the ceiling above. Price is well below both, and you think of those as the walls the market has to climb through before anything changes structurally. The key confluence zone below, this is the most important level on the entire chart tonight. The daily 50 smooth moving average, 76,821. Take profit 3 at 76,621. Daily 50 simple moving average, 75,500. Wave 4 runner at $75,000, and the 4-hour fib 382, the fence post, is also in the same place. 4 independent technical measurements converging within $1,000, $777 range. You think of it like 4 fence posts all driven to the same patch of ground from different directions. That's the most significant support zone on the chart. What the indicators say, 4-hour speedometer, K at 40, D at 30.56. K above D, it's low, it's the modest curl attempting. 4-hour heartbeat at the RSI at 33.56, below 50. The bear momentum is intact. No 4-hour bull signal on the cipher yet, and here's why this matters. Every prior meaningful subwave low has had a 4-hour hidden bull confirmation before the bounce held. This bounce attempt does not have that confirmation. 5 consecutive bear cipher labels from the wave 3 top. What it means, the 4-hour is the tell. When the 4-hour bull prints, that's the confirmation signal the framework waits for. Until it does, the structure has not resolved. Watch 79,240 above, the 4-hour 50 smooth moving average, first level that needs to break for the bear thesis to ease. Watch 76,821 below, the daily 50 smooth moving average, the line that cannot break on a daily close without accelerating the move to $75,000. A good farrier doesn't shoe a horse still moving. Flat is a win when the setup isn't there. Tomorrow morning, New York Open, Clarity Act, Ethics, Stalemate. Watch for anything this week, any movement this week. Well, on day 18, trade 29 with take profit 3, less than $400 away. If you're not subscribed, you will miss it when it breaks. Hit subscribe and tap the bell right now. And 2 roads from here, both have a plan, neither have panic. Road 1, the $75,000 confluence zone holds. Subway 5 completes at the 4-layer convergence. The daily 50 smooth moving average, the daily 50 simple moving average, wave 4 runner, and the 4-hour fence post all stacked within $1,777 of each other. The daily speedometer at 0 for 3 consecutive sessions fires its release signal. The 4-hour hidden bull confirms. The whale on day 18 keeps buying. Japan's institutional positioning becomes a clearer. Bitcoin dominance rolls over from 60.83% in the faucet turn. Wave 5 up launches towards 86,122 to 87,270, where the weekly EMA 50 and the 382 fence post converge. The head and shoulders stays on the map, but the bull road wins. Road 2, the daily 50 smooth moving average at 76,821 loses on a daily close. Subway 5 accelerates through the confluence zone. The 74,193 daily 382 fib becomes the next support. The 4-hour golden zone at 71,474 to 72,000 is the next meaningful floor. Below that, yields push through 4.623% towards 4.813, and the DXY breaks $100.44 on a daily close. The macro ceiling that didn't roll over becomes the wall that breaks this market lower. In that scenario, the head and shoulders measured move at 34,178 moves from the back of the map to the front. And this is the honest truth tonight. The daily is at historic oversold levels. The 4-hour hidden bull is not confirmed. The macro headwind is not rolled over. The sovereign scale well has not missed one day in 17. All of those things are simultaneously true. The framework does not pick a road until the confirmation prints. The spooked horse runs until something stops it. Smart cowboys wait for the fence. Trade 29, take profit 3 is $400 away. The runner's $75,000. The framework called this move. We ride it until it tells us otherwise. Now we're going to close it out with our spiritual closer, just like we do every single night. Tonight comes from Psalm, chapter 46, verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. Tonight we looked at a bond market screaming at record highs while stock markets celebrated all-time records. A whale buying $60 billion in silence while retail sold in panic. A country of 125 million people on the other side of the world just opening the door to Bitcoin through the most trusted financial institutions they have. A war cabinet meeting on Saturday, the Truth Social post that isn't a warning. It's an operation. And the trade that the framework called at $80,000, now sitting $400 from its third target with a runner pointed at $75,000. Be still, not passive, not unaware, still. The eagle doesn't flap harder when the wings stop. It waits for the thermal and lets it carry the weight. The framework tells you when to move. The confirmation tells you when to enter, and the patience to wait for both. That's not weakness. That's a discipline that separates the cowboys who stay from the ones who get bucked off chasing the wrong setup. God gets the credit for this channel, and for whatever happens next, I'm going to close it out right here. Chris Hare, the world champion crypto cowboy. I really appreciate you watching. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you down the road.